What's going on, guys? Today I'll be getting my junkyard fenders ready to go on the car. Alright guys, so last week you saw me take a ride to the junkyard and cut these quarter panels off of a totaled Mustang. Even though the Mustang was totaled, the quarter panels are actually in really good shape. So when I cut them, I wasn't trying to make like a perfect cut. I was just making sure that I cut enough away to have everything I might want. So I've got really jagged edges all around the quarters. You can see here on the top, you know, it's not straight at all. You know, this isn't gonna be the way that I wanna mount them. So I need to clean up all the cuts. And I think I have a pretty good idea of where I wanna cut it and what I wanna keep. So on the top here, there is this body line that's right above this pinstripe here. And it's kind of where it slopes back into the car. And so I wanna cut it right on that body line. It's gonna be tough, but I'm gonna try to make it as straight of a cut as I can. I do wanna keep this general shape so it looks pretty much like this from the side. So I'm gonna be cutting right on this corner here to get rid of this jagged edge that I made before. And then kind of the exact same thing here on the bottom, just follow this corner, make it a nice clean cut. And then on the inside, I am going to want to cut out this old inner fender arch completely, because if I don't, that'll totally defeat the purpose of the fact that I cut out the old arches, because then this would hit the tire when I lowered the car down. So I'm gonna have to cut that in here pretty close so that this is just a pretty much flat surface that can go right against the tire as I lower it down. And I also need to make sure there's nothing sharp that could damage the tire potentially. So cut out all of this. That'll also take some weight out. And then on the driver's side, I do have the gas door to deal with. I can actually cut out most of this. I do want to keep the features from the outside here, because that's what I will use to remount my fuel door. But this inner flange can completely go away, and that'll also save some weight. And then here in the front, this is the one interesting part that I've been going back and forth on, but I think I'm gonna be cutting this right here, which is following this, you know, this body line that is almost like where a scoop would be. Like on older generations, there was kind of a scoop there. So I'll be trying to make a nice straight cut that lines up with that crease perfectly. So it's gonna be at a little bit of an angle. I think that'll match the stock lines of the car pretty well. And then I won't have to worry about this being too close to the door when I open it, having some type of fitment issues there. I'm gonna start off by completely taping off the area on the car that I'll be working. I know that you'll be seeing some of this paint up here and in the front. So I wanna make sure I don't scratch any of the paint that is on the car, because it actually is in pretty good shape and I don't wanna be repainting my quarters. So that way, once I get my quarters cut, I can hold them up here and not have to worry about scratching anything. I now have all of the cutting complete for both fenders, and it went pretty smoothly. It was just very time consuming. I think it took me about 9 or 10 hours to do all of the trimming around the outside and then on the inside as well. I ended up using an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel for most of it. The only spot that I couldn't get into was that tight corner there. So I got it as close as I could with the angle grinder, and then I used the die grinder with just like a 1/4 inch deburring bit on it, and that worked actually pretty well. It's very controllable. I like using that die grinder. And all of the cuts came out pretty clean. I just really took my time and didn't really have any issues. I liked using the tape to create the nice contrasting line so I could follow that the whole way around. And I did this front cut first. It took me a little time to figure out exactly where I wanted to put it, but I ended up lining up right with where that scoop goes. It really is kind of a curve, so it just took a little bit of trial and error to get the tape placed exactly where I thought would look right. And then from there I did the top and then the back side where the taillights are, and then the bottom cuts, which are that one and then this one. Once I got all the outside cuts done, then I moved to the inside, and I worked on the driver's side first because I knew I had to deal with the gas door section. And I started by heating up and prying a little bit around the outside to release this, this foam adhesive. But then I realized it was actually spot welded, 2 spots on the bottom here and 2 spots on the top. As you can see right there, there's 2 spot welds. So I ended up having to cut it. So I cut it the whole way around, and then after I cut it, it was pretty easy to actually just pull off that flange. And then once I did that, I moved to cutting the arches out. I was pretty conservative at first because I knew I definitely didn't want to cut through the outer fender. I started a little high and then I worked my way down far enough that this is pretty flat so that when I do fully air out, it shouldn't contact the tire, and if it does, it's nothing sharp, it's pretty flat. It should be good to go. Now these both should be at their final shape. I might need to do a little bit of adjusting here and there, but I can at least start holding them up to the car and kind of seeing where I'm going to mount them and how I'm going to mount it. So that's what I'll be doing next. I've now got both fenders taped onto the car. So I ended up using some stacked cardboard to make some makeshift spacers. You know, I put them at the bottom and at the top in basically all 4 corners. So I worked my way up to about 2 inches. I might be a little bit over 2 inches, and it's looking pretty good. I think this is pretty close to my final fitment of where it's going to be placed. And as you can see, it lines up with the tire really nicely. So this is looking pretty good. I know it's kind of hard to tell what it's gonna look like with all of the tape and everything else. One thing I'm considering is possibly chopping this off straight here instead of having that little point. I have that there because that's what the stock body lines are. The stock quarter panel goes up and back to the taillight right there. So that's one part I'm not totally sure about. Feel free to drop your opinion on that. It would just be a little bit more straight instead of having that little corner there. So I've also got the driver's side panel on, and all of the measurements seem to match pretty well to the other side. The fitment looks exactly the same with the same amount of spacers in there. Right now I'm at 0 PSI in the rear bag, so in theory this is as low as I can go for now unless I adjust the struts themselves. I don't really think I'd need to go much lower than this. I kind of like the way this stance is looking right now. Unfortunately, that's going to be it for today. I've been working on these fenders for like 3 days straight, and I wanted to get another update out to you guys. So next time I'll be working on the mounts. I have a really good idea of what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to probably be closing in the whole top section here so you can't look down in. It'll be completely solid on the top, and then I'll do something similar here on that spot near the rear bumper, and then also down here by the rocker panel. And now that I have the measurements that I need from the stock body, I can start with that design. I think it's gonna be out of some type of a plastic, and it's gonna be CNC machined. And once I get those designed and fabricated, I'll be refitting the fenders with the mounts, make sure everything looks perfect, see if I wanna do any more trimming. And then once I know I'm good to go, I'll paint the fenders to match the car. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.